Thank you for coming out on this beautiful autumn day. Last but not least, I want to welcome all the guests here, particularly the men and women standing around this tent today. We're just a fraction of the hundreds of men and women that have worked tirelessly on the land behind me over the last 3 years. I congratulate all of them for the success of this effort to transform complex. Just a little bit of history is in order. Governor, we stand here today on hallowed ground, a place where for 75 years, hundreds of thousands of hardworking Missourians and our neighbors came to build and sustain the extraordinary manufacturing strength of America, needed to win not one, not two, but three great wars: World War II, the Korean War, and the Cold War. When America could no longer stand down from direct involvement in World War II, the nation required the means to procure armaments and aircraft to take up the great world challenge. In that time, the relationship between the citizens and their government and between business and industry and their government never witnessed such a great collaboration on such a massive and expeditious scale. In urban and rural communities across America and at newly minted industrial plants, such as the behemoth that used to lie behind me on this ground, this river bottom in 1942. And but for that grand collaboration among private industry, citizen workers, and the national government, history would no doubt tell a very different story. The huge Kansas City plant that stood here and its dedicated workforce went on to serve this nation for over 7 decades, until by the confluence of the need to modernize our nuclear industrial complex and its infrastructure, and the accumulation of physical obsolescence born of the years, the old plant needed to be taken out of service. The new plant, which I was proudly a part of the team to construct, as the governor knows, is located just 8 miles behind here, keeping for Kansas City thousands of high-paying jobs in Kansas City, Missouri. But the old plant left a legacy, an environmental legacy that needed to be remedied. Local and state officials and the community worried that the abandoned federal plant would quickly become blighted and dangerous. But with steady community involvement, private sector know-how, and the key leadership of some individuals who will be speaking to us today, a comprehensive plan to demolish the 3.7 million square feet and clean up the environmental problems that had accumulated came to pass. During this transformation, men and women from our community worked over 600,000 hours. And Governor, I'm proud to say, and this has got to go in the record books, over that period of time, not a single man or woman lost a day of work due to a job site injury. 600,000 hours. Because we dedicated ourselves to the safety of our workforces and themselves and to the community. Our collective strength and the seamless state and federal intergovernmental cooperation has brought us to this day. And Governor, Senator, Congressman, and Madam Administrator, I'm happy to announce that we are literally just days away from new construction beginning on the far western part of this property with our development partners, North Point Development from Riverside, Missouri. So we're here to announce the fact that our job is nearly complete. The site has been reclaimed, and new construction and new jobs and new economic growth will once again be a cornerstone of this historic land. Governor, I'm proud to have you speak with us, and thank you so much for attending today.
Kevin, thank you very much. What a great day. Anytime you're out here visiting with the workers that I got a chance to say hello to, and appreciate all them for the job they're doing. And what really makes Missouri go is the people back there working hard every day. And to be here today on a site to see what the future is going to hold is pretty exciting in times that we've been through the last 8 months. I also want to make sure and emphasize how much I appreciate Senator Blunt, Congressman Cleaver, for all the work they've done across the state of Missouri and what they've done for the Kansas City area. and how fast Kansas City is on the track to recovering after a pandemic and with this economy. So I thank that. I also want to thank my director of Department of Natural Resources, Carol Comer's here. I want to thank all of her work, willing with this company, with the federal government, to make this all possible. And I thank you, Carol, for everything you've done on that. When we look at where the future of our state goes, it all comes down to workforce development. It comes down to opportunities. And for way too long, Missouri has always seemed like we've been looking who we got to pass, who's in front of us, whether it's other states. You know, I firmly believe Missouri's on the right track right now. And I believe it's us going to be looking in the rearview mirror to a lot of the states of the opportunities we have when people are working together, creating jobs. What we did prior to the pandemic, where we had unemployment at 3.1 in the state of Missouri, record lows in this, 40,000 new jobs, companies coming to Missouri. And when the pandemic come, everything shut down for a little bit. But the one thing I am glad looking back on it now, that we kept the state of Missouri open, we kept it going, we kept people at work, and today we're driving that economy forward with an unemployment rate of 4.9. And because of that, we can do expansions like this. We can build up businesses. We can give opportunity. We can create new jobs in one of the most difficult times. It's why this state is 15th in the United States right now on the recovery of economic development in this state. We're number 5 in the nation for getting people back to work because we're using a common sense. We're taking a balanced approach of how we move Missouri forward. So being here today, what I think of is all these guys out here working, guys and women that are out here working, is I want to continue to work. I want those buildings going up. I want people filling those buildings. And I want to give Missouri an opportunity to be here and for our kids and our grandkids to stay here in Missouri. So I thank everybody that took a part in this. Missouri's on the right track, and this is going to be part of the expansion of our state. And just it's an honor and privilege to be here today as the 57th governor. Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Parson. And I'm so glad you mentioned Dr. Comer, the Director of Natural Resources. I couldn't agree more. The Department of Natural Resources, the Environmental Protection Agency, they were critical partners in this success throughout this endeavor. Without the teamwork, we wouldn't find ourselves here today. Talk about teamwork, another instrumental individual, a true leader in Missouri, Senator Roy Blunt, my friend, will be joining us now from Washington, D.C., where the Senate is still in session. Roy was instrumental in writing the critical legislation necessary to make this transformation possible. And then working across the aisle with Congressman Cleaver, he secured the financial resources necessary to make this great project possible. I'm honored to introduce Senator Roy Blunt, calling us from Washington, D.C., from the Capitol, and he'll be joining us, as will Congressman Cleaver and the administrator of NNSA by Zoom, and I hope the technology will cooperate with us. Senator Blunt?
If I'm unmuted, great to be with you. Great to be with you even if I'm still muted, but what a great day for this location. Kevin, I want to say your leadership in this project has been extraordinary. Ahead of schedule. I heard you mention the incredible work record of working without injury for almost a million work hours. And if you were at that facility, as Congressman Cleaver and I were a number of times during the time you were doing what had to be done there, you'd understand even more dramatically what it meant to be at that facility, all the things that had to come apart, and come apart safely. And to see this facility where it is today, this great location, the governor's support has been tremendous in finishing this project up. Director Comer has been incredible in being sure that a real partner was Missouri DNR and also EPA. They worked together, got the clearances we needed, didn't make this more difficult than it needed to be, but certainly made it as difficult as it needed to be to get this project safely where it is today. Congressman Cleaver and I were able to work together, and I think eventually we got almost $240 million dedicated to this site becoming a place for future jobs and future opportunity. The easiest thing to have done would have been to build a big chain link fence or maintain the fence that was already there and just have a security person drive by over and over again during the day and walk away. But the investment that federal taxpayers made in helping clean this property up. Now remember, this is a site that in July the 4th, 1942 was dedicated by Senator Truman. And actually I'm sitting right now in the Russell office building in the room he would have been working in at the time he was figuring out how can we get this important site to Missouri rather than to somewhere else in the country. And he was able to do that, you know, initially designed to be a place where they were building Navy aircraft. And then more and more things were added to where in many ways it became almost the factory for how we were going to defend America, what things we were going to try, what things we were going to see if they worked. And because of that, a lot of things were done on that site that we had to be absolutely sure were safely removed, safely remediated, so you could take this location, a great intersection of rail and water and highways really close. I was at the Port of Kansas City Saturday talking about what they have the potential to do at the Port of Kansas City, but also talking about how this site has many of those same characteristics and links into the great location that we have. And, you know, this could have been an abandoned location. Kevin Breslin and others talking to us about what could happen convinced Congressman Cleaver and I that this needed to be a location that was a vibrant place for new jobs rather than an abandoned location that had had 70 years of government jobs at that location. So what a great day. What a great understanding that we're soon going to begin to see warehousing and other transportation related things come together there. They're going to restore in a significant number the kinds of jobs that had been there for a long time. We were able to keep those jobs still in Kansas City, in the Kansas City area on the Missouri side of the line. And we like that, of course, but these are going to be new and different jobs at this great location. So Governor, thanks for all you've done. Emmanuel Cleaver, my good friend, we were able to work together on this. And Kevin, you and your team, working with safety, working with diligence, working with a real goal in sight have made a real difference here. I know you're going to recognize many of the people that have been involved and have been doing that since day one. And so I'm not going to do that, but I am grateful for the entire team that's worked to make this happen, and grateful for the investors that are coming in now to take advantage of this incredible location that could have been lost. But with the collective effort, we're going to see great things happen there. We're in the middle of votes, so I cast one vote, came over here to be with you. Now I have to go back and do that second vote. But it's not for any lack of enthusiasm about this project. I wanted to be there in person, and there would have been a time on my schedule when I would have been. But let me tell you, I'm absolutely there in spirit, excited about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and excited about the future of this great Bannister site.
Thank you, Senator Blunt. Again, without your support and sustained commitment, we wouldn't have gotten out of the ground. Successfully executing a project of this sort and this scale requires a great deal of community support. That support creates the gel that makes the plan work. When we began to explain the vision of our redevelopment, restoration of the site back in 2013, I called upon Congressman Cleaver and his fine staff and asked for their support, and they were tireless in supporting us and explaining to the community the potential success of a restoration of this sort. He helped us carry a positive message to the community, a message of hope in the face of challenge. And as you heard, both he and Senator Blunt did something that's all too rare these days. They reached across the aisle and got the job done as partners. And so I'm very, very happy to now introduce, again over Zoom, the Honorable Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, who will speak to us this afternoon. Thank you very much, Congressman.
Look, let me just say this: there's some wonderful history with this project, with this, not only this project but this plant, and it goes back to February 1949, and even before that, United States Senator, as was mentioned by Roy Blunt, persuaded the Navy to build this facility in Kansas City, and then in 1942, during World War II, it was President Truman who was able to stand at a site out there to get the first contract to operate the KC plant. And among the many local workers at the Bendix plant was a guy who was in his senior year trying to figure out what he was going to do. And a guy by the name of Don Blakely came to Prairie View A&M University. He was in human resources at the Bendix plant, and he talked to me and a number of other people about coming to Kansas City. Well, you know, I didn't know much about Kansas City. All I knew is that a guy 2 years ahead of me by the name of Otis Taylor, one of our football stars at school, and had been drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. And I knew that he was here, and another guy named Jim Kearney, who was our quarterback, had also moved here. So I said, hey, it must be a nice place. So make a long story short, I came to work at Bendix here in Kansas City. And decades later, it was heartening to see the cleanup and the transformation underway for this vital area right here in South Kansas City. And I've been proud to work for over 10 years across the aisles with first my lifelong friend, will be my lifelong friend, Kid Bond, Senator Ken Bond, to secure federal funding to the transfer for the National Security Campus to its new location, and to ensure that the federal government took responsibility for the cleanup and the remediation as it conveyed the property for redevelopment. We also worked together in 2012 to have the site considered as one location for the purpose of environmental monitoring and permitting, rather than separate DOE and GSA sites. Look, I am proud that I'm from Missouri for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons is that for the most part, Missourians will work together, and they are able to put political party affiliation aside. I was so joyful at a time when there was not a lot of joy, and that is right after the COVID began to wreak havoc across the country, that the governor called all of us together in the delegation, Washington delegation, and we meet every week to talk about what we could do together and to fill us in on the issues facing Missouri. And then Roy Blunt and I worked together on a number of projects. Just 2 weeks ago, we announced a coin bill, which won't mean much to anybody there, except that it can produce as much as $12 million for the Negro Leagues Museum. And we worked together on a $3 million coin deal about 5 or 6 years ago that created $3 million for the World War I museum and memorial. So Senator Blunt and I worked together on a number of projects, and we worked together to get the language, as he mentioned earlier, into the continuing resolution in December of 2016 that provided the full funding for the transfer of ownership of the Bannister Complex. A delay, frankly, of that could have cost the government millions and millions of dollars. And though I was pleased to participate in the groundbreaking of the new Kansas City plant in 2008, in fact, I rode over there with now deceased Representative Ike Skelton to participate in the groundbreaking. And it was quite an event. And Now I'm thrilled that we are making it possible for some additional jobs to come into this community. I mean, ultimately, this city is going to rise or fall on a couple of things. One, on our ability to attract major corporations, which will produce jobs to Kansas City, and whether or not our elected officials can work together. And the good news today is that we've done just that. So it's just a matter of time now. Good jobs are on the way. And thank you for having me here today.
Thank you so very much, Congressman Cleaver. We do appreciate you joining us here today. We appreciate those kind words, and most of all, we appreciate all the support you've given us, and we know you'll continue to support our efforts here. So thank you. The transformation of this complex stands as a testament to the benefits of a strong, public, transparent, public-private partnership. The National Nuclear Security Administration began to conceive of the beneficial reuse of the old Kansas City plant over 10 years ago. We had just begun building the new security campus, and already folks, leaders of the agency were thinking about what you see here today. And they kept their promise to South Kansas City and to Missouri to see this through this transformative phase that you see now in front of you. NNSA has been an outstanding, dependable partner to the private sector and to the state of Missouri. I'm pleased and honored to introduce to all of you the Administrator of the National Nuclear Security Administration, Lisa Gordon Haggerty, speaking to us today from her headquarters in Washington, D.C. Madam Secretary.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. While I wish I could be with you today in Kansas City, it's still a great pleasure for me to join you to commemorate this important milestone in the transformation of the former Bannister Federal Complex. I do want to note I was just out in Kansas City at our Kansas City National Security Complex just last week. And I'm just so pleased to represent the 3,800 men and women that are working at our KCNSC plant and the 50,000 men and women that make up the National Nuclear Security Administration. The Bannister Federal Complex was originally constructed as a Department of Defense site, as we heard, in 1942, and for nearly 7 decades, it provided vital services to our great nation and our nuclear deterrent. But more than a decade ago, NNSA decided we needed to move forward and a new facility was necessary. And for those of you that are not aware, initial estimates concluded that the demolition of the 5 million square feet and remediation of those contaminants typical of commercial industrial sites from World War II era buildings would cost over $900 million, nearly $1 billion taxpayer dollars. And complicating the efforts was the fact that the custody and control of the main operating building, as we heard, was split between GSA and NNSA. However, our two agencies worked together to address these challenges, and the challenges that we faced to dispose of the property. We collaborated on legal, environmental, and economic issues while always involving the public. We addressed the selection of the preferred planning partner to develop plans for remediation and development of the site, and we completed an environmental assessment as we secured special legislation and funding for the project, working with members of the Missouri congressional delegation. We've also worked closely with our friends from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources and EPA to meet rigorous transfer requirements prior to the environmental cleanup to ensure remediation work would meet Missouri cleanup standards. And as a result of this cooperation, in November of 2017, 227 acres, including 5 million square feet of space, were transferred to the Bannister Transformation and Development LLC, a move that saved our American taxpayers more than $700 million in estimated remediation and demolition costs. Now, less than 3 years later, I'm so delighted to see that redevelopment work will be underway very soon. The redevelopment work in this industrial use space will span more than 2.5 million square feet and contribute to the surrounding area's continued resurgence. As NNSA administrator, I'm so proud of our role in this multi-agency public-private partnership. I want to thank and congratulate the agencies and individuals who made this milestone possible, including the GSA, EPA, and the U.S. Corps of Engineers, the state of Missouri, proudly represented today by Governor Mike Parson, Senator Roy Blunt, and Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for your partnership with the federal government, the City of Kansas City, our M&O partners from Honeywell, and last but certainly not least, the Bannister Transformation and Development LLC. From the beginning, this effort has been about public-private partnerships, working together to accomplish this important effort efficiently and in a cost-effective manner while ensuring strong environmental protections. I believe the Bannister story will serve as a great case study for years to come, showcasing how federal, state, and local leadership can complete a project of this complexity and magnitude within an aggressive time frame and be so successful. So thanks for the opportunity to speak to you today and to express NNSA's appreciation for all we have done together. Thank you.
Thank you very much again to all of our distinguished guests here today. Governor, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us here. And as you can tell, we're a little bit proud, but we're glad that you were here to join us. And we encourage all of our friends in the media to stay looking out at the site, because out in the distance there, up on the far side of the property, within a matter of literally days, you're going to see construction trailers moving in. You're going to see construction equipment coming onto the site. This land is reborn, and new jobs and new activity will begin very, very soon, literally within a matter of days. So we look forward to moving forward with our friends at North Point Development and all the hardworking men and women who have helped us get to this point and will continue to help us as we build up the site in the future. So thank you everyone for being here today. We appreciate you joining us. Take care. Thank you.